guys, it's Naomi and welcome to my gluten-free, allergy-friendly kitchen. Today, I'm going to teach you how to use just a few simple ingredients to make a beautiful, pretty and pink cobbler just in time for summer. So, are you ready to get started? Okay. Today, we're going to use something a little bit different than a gluten-free flour. We are going to use a gluten-free cup-for-cup pancake and biscuit mix. Now obviously I like Better Batter. I suppose you could use a couple of the other ones that are out there. I can't speak to them because I've never tried them, but if you have and you know one that is truly cup for cup, please go ahead and put it in the comments section below and I'll make sure to recommend it when I do this live. Alright, so what we're going to start with is 2 pounds of fresh fruit. Now if you want your cobbler to be pretty and pink, 1 pound of the fruit needs to be bright red. So you could use strawberries. It's been a remarkably cool summer so far. So I got the last of the season strawberries and I'm using 1 pound of that. You could use cranberries, you could use raspberries. As long as it has bright red pigment, this cobbler will come out pink. You're also going to use 1 pound of another kind of fruit that is not pink if you don't want. For me, we are in the middle of a nice cool summer. So I have used 1 pound of rhubarb, and you can use peaches, you can use apples, you can use whatever you like, but you're going to want to make sure at least one of those pounds of fruit is really juicy to make sure this comes out okay. I'm going to show you for just a second, even though I pre-measured my 2 pounds of fruit, I'm going to show you exactly how big the pieces should be. So let me go grab some fruit real quick. Okay, so we have some fresh fruit from my garden, some of my son's delicious rhubarb that he grows, and the strawberries that he wishes he didn't have to weed. And if you are dealing with a berry, the smaller berries you don't even have to worry about, just rinse them off. But the bigger berries are going to be about a 1-inch dice, okay? Which is going to look something like this. Can you see? Uh-oh, that one's for the dog. And the rhubarb, or the peaches, or whatever else, you're going to also want to do in 1 inches. Now, for those of you who don't think you like rhubarb, I have found that rhubarb is a wonderful sour note. So anything you would put lemons in, or anything that you want a little tanginess, if you mix it with something sweet, you'll probably like it. If you don't like the texture of rhubarb, it's probably because you're overcooking it. And so what you want to do is you want to keep the pieces relatively large and you want to cook them for a little less time. This recipe is ideal. Okay, so once you have cut up your 2 pounds of fruit, you're going to go ahead and you're going to place them in a heavy-bottomed saucepan. And to that, you're going to add, are you ready for it? You're going to add 2 tablespoons of water. Yes, that is it. The fruit will do all the rest of the liquid for you. 2 cups of sugar. Now you can use real sugar. You can use coconut palm sugar for a little bit lower glycemic. You could even use something like Swerve or like a stevia granulated. I like monk fruit granulated. You're going to mix that up. And then you're going to use a 1/4 cup of our Better Batter Gluten Free Pancake and Biscuit Mix. Don't get weirded out. It's going to work amazing. Okay, and let me show you what that looks like. I shouldn't let this go too far because I need it for the next step. So when you start, it's going to look very dry and very crumbly. We are going to put this on high heat and we're going to let it cook until it boils. And we're going to boil it for 1 minute. So while we're doing that, I'm going to show you how to measure out our cobbler topping. And while you're by the oven, you might as well put it on at 400 degrees. All right. Sorry about that. Now we're going to make up the things that are going to go into our cobbler topping. We're going to do the wet ingredients and we're going to do the dry ingredients, but we are not going to mix it together until we are ready because gluten-free things with xanthan gum tend to continue to thicken as they sit, and we want this to be somewhat workable. So once again, you're going to take our Batter Gluten-Free Pancake and Biscuit Mix. If you have a good cup for cup that you like, or you're not gluten-free and just want to use Bisquick, that's fine. If you want to make your own homemade, that's fine. But it has to be cup for cup, all right? And we are going to measure out 1.5 cups of this. Now you don't want to scoop measure, because if you scoop measure, you might get twice as much in by weight as you actually need by volume. And that will lead to a tough, dry, crunchy, disgusting cobbler. So what we're going to do, because I am a little bit lazy, you could weigh it by weight if you wanted to, using the measurements on the back of our box. Or you could just stir it up a bit, pour it in, and level it off, which is what I'm going to do. Probably should do this over a bowl in case it spills. All right, when it gets a little bit over, just go ahead and level it out. This is not a recipe you have to be super precise with. Usually I tell you should be very precise. This is a very forgiving recipe, as long as you don't pack it in. All right, so when we've got the pancake and biscuit mix in the bowl, we are going to add to that another tablespoon of sugar. And we're going to add 3 tablespoons of butter or margarine melted. Now, I left that in the microwave, so you're going to have to excuse me for just a minute while I go get it. Every so often, check your fruit and stir it up so it doesn't burn. As your fruit heats and macerates, it's going to start releasing juices. And I'm going to bring this up so you can see. Can you see how the sugar is starting to get wet and damp? You are going to continue to cook it. At some point, it will fully macerate, which means all the juices will flow out, and then it'll start to boil. At that point, you pull it right off, and we're ready to go to the next step. Meanwhile, what you're going to do, you're going to take a spoon, if I can find one. All right, you're going to mix the Batter pancake mix, remember the 1.5 cups, and the 1 tablespoon of sugar together, okay? And you're also going to measure out, I forgot, a 1/2 cup of milk or water, and a 1/2 cup of water, or a full cup of water, okay? 1 measuring cup by volume. Now, if like me, you're dairy-free, you can use any good dairy-free milk. I have a hemp milk recipe on my channel that you can go ahead and try. Or you could use a commercially available one. Or you could just use water. If you have dairy, go ahead and put it in. The difference between the water and the dairy is a little bit more calories and a little bit more browning while it's in the oven. But to be honest with you, it's not that big of a difference, okay? You just want a cup total of liquid. And of course, you've got your 3 tablespoons of either butter or dairy-free margarine. I have found that any of the dairy-free margarines will work. I personally tend to favor Earth Balance, but you can do you, okay? We're going to check this again because I don't want my fruit to burn. All right, guys, I have lost my pot holders. sometimes I feel like I'd lose my head if it wasn't screwed on. So I'm gonna see what I can do because the pot is getting hot to find that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm going to show you what's going on in the pot right now, and I'm gonna bring the mountain to you, okay? Hopefully you can see this. You can see, but a syrup is starting to form, and in just a minute or two, I find this takes about 7 to 8 minutes total. In just a minute or two, that is going to break down the fruit even more, and it's going to form into a lot of syrup and chunks of fruit. And at that point, when it's boiling and it has broken down, we're going to pour it into a baking dish. Now you could use a pie plate, you could use a casserole, or you could use a cake pan, but I always make sure to put what I call a junk pan under it to catch the drips. I don't know if you guys have this in your house, but I always have a junk pan to catch all the nasties, anything that'll be carbonized so it doesn't get inside my oven. And I'm just gonna use a pie plate because I love to see the pink color, but you know, a really nice decorative casserole would also work. Now, part of the reason we are cooking this on the stove is to reduce the overall cooking time and to keep the texture improved, because the syrup is going to thicken and that sugar and starch is going to preserve the shape of our fruit. Now, it looks like it's just about ready. I'm going to show you what it looks like when I pour it in here, okay? All right, hopefully I can do this. Now, the fruit is largely still intact. Like I said, you need the pan sometimes before it gets in the oven. The fruit is largely still intact. I'm going to use my spoons to show you. And it's still pretty firm. Okay? You're going to find softer fruits get softer much faster. But this is going to continue to get juicy as it bakes in the oven. And that is just fine. Your cobbler mix is going to absorb a lot of the extra liquid, but like I said, put it on the pan. Murphy's Law, if you can't go wrong, it will. Now what we're going to do to the pancake mix and sugar mixture, if you remember, we had a cup of total liquid and 3 tablespoons of butter or margarine. We're going to pour that in all at once, and we are going to stir it up. Now it's going to start off looking like pancake mix, okay? Like you're having a batter. You want to keep stirring it for about 30 seconds. Until you get a nice batter that clumps and glops off your spoon, okay? And we're going to take that and we're just going to put big blobs of it onto our cobbler. Now I have a personal theory, someone can correct me if I'm spreading misinformation, that we call it cobbler because the biscuits on top look like cobblestones. And so I always try to use just enough to leave spaces in between each of my cobbles, A, I think it makes the biscuits taste better and it makes the cobbler not as dry. B, it makes it look like cobblestones, and I like quirky things like that. Now, if you have just a ton of it, depending on the size of your container, it may almost fully cover it, or it may not. And just put a little blob here, a little blob there. Okay, now remember, we turned our oven to 400 degrees. So you are going to put this in for 20 minutes, okay? And it's going to cook. I'll put it in, and I'll show you what it looks like again. Okay, so if you wanted it, I'm trying not to spill it, guys. If you wanted it a little bit more brown, you could sprinkle sugar on top before you pop it in, and it will caramelize and give it like a candied crust. Personally, for me, this is a very sweet recipe, so I'm not putting any extra sugar on it, but you want to cook it till the peaks get golden brown. Now I'm going to spoon a little bit of this out for you, and hopefully you can see how wonderful it is as it's being served. So you'll have to let me know if you can see this. You just put a little bit of the fruit mixture in. If you wanted to gild the lily, you could put a little whipped cream or a little ice cream on top, and you're going to want to serve it either warm or cold. If you want to go even fancier, you could go ahead and you could take some fresh ginger and you could grate that over top of the fruit before you put the cobbler mix on. It really adds another flavor element. I'm sure there are other ideas. You can switch up the spices, the seasonings, anything you want based on the fruit you're using. And I would love to hear from you. So go ahead and tell me in the comment section below what kind of cobbler you like to make. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more recipes. And have a wonderful day. And don't forget that, as always, I love you. I'll talk to you later, okay? Bye!